Chapter 3. She had felt kind of a jostle at takeoff. The familiar rising sound of an angelic echo was followed by a heavy metallic thud which alerted Jade that they had landed. The landing itself was accompanied by the strange feeling of her tummy doing a flip, as if on a roller coaster. "Now, I came as close as I could," the traveler in white stated. He put on his pure white coat. Jade glanced over at him as he moved around the chrome and white terminal, pressed some shiny buttons on a silver control panel. In the center of the bright, six-sided console, a large, dark-colored slab emerged. It was flat, marble, perhaps in rows vertically into the air. Jade thought it looked as if there should be water flowing down in it at a dentist's office. A picture emerged on which showed current the conditions outside. They were back on Earth. Jade squealed and grabbed her pink scarf, running toward the wall. Of course, she hadn't noticed that they were not in a graveyard. She ran outside and felt hard steps beneath her. It was a dreary day, but warm, not quite fall yet on the streets of St. Louis. Jade was standing on an immense concrete staircase. People were looking at her quizzically. Someone was pressing buttons on a black piece of plastic. Lots of them were, actually. There were pigeons cooing, cars strangled the streets, folks were walking everywhere she could possibly look. Jade spun on her heels. She found herself looking up at the federal building. Two enormous statues sat on the top of a grand stone stairway between the 5 grand entrances. There were police all over the place, and lawyers, and hosers, and some vagrants. The pillar she emerged from was at the bottom of one of the statues. It had placed itself in front of a much larger, wider, and older stone column. It stuck out quite badly, yet after a few moments neither it nor Jade seemed to draw any further attention. Everyone was increasingly stabbing their fingers into the black plastic notepads and notebooks. A siren wailed in the distance. People were self-absorbed. People moved on. She watched this, reaffirmed, as the traveler came outside. He just appeared out of the pillar, emerged from inside the column. Some of the locals seemed jostled, but their attention soon became diverted back to themselves. The people of this city, and at this moment, just came and went in waves. Up the stairs, down the stairs, in the door, out the door, appearing, disappearing. "This is not where you picked me up from." Jade folded her arms, leering at him. "This is as close as I could get." The traveler was screwing with his watch. "I'm going to have to repeat myself for you quite a bit, aren't I?" She was going to shove him, right down the stairs. "This is the courthouse. I know this place. I had to come here to get a registration order," Jade said as she followed him. He wandered toward the street below, staring intently at his watch. Then he stopped abruptly, turning to face her, as if it took a second for him to hear what she said. He was looking into her eyes again. "How many times did you come here?" "I had to come here 3 freaking times. Miserable son of a bitch made it a huge pain in the ass." Jade always got pissed when she thought of that particular headache. "What does everyone have?" Jade asked. "Everyone have?" The traveler looked up. His eyes looked exhausted, yet were razor sharp. "Everyone is playing a video game, it looks like." Jade mimed, holding a video controller. Traveler looked around and turned off his watch. He instantly analyzed all nearby communication technology, took a deep sniff in the air. iPads and iPhones, smartphones, Androids, Kindles. Several people across the street and in the park had sleek and slim Apple, Samsung, Sony tablets. Many officers, detectives, and attorneys streaming in and out of the courthouse wore Bluetooth headsets. Perfectly normal. "Yes, you humans do love to delve into your minutiae of your existence and documents everything. Do you not?" "How do you mean?" "Blogging, Twitter, YouTube." The traveler kept saying words, none of them making any sense to Jade. At all. "I'm not following you." Jade shook her head, grimacing. She started looking at the ends of her pink hair. Traveler turned his watch on, again, typed several things, looked at Jade. She saw his eyes stare at her intently, then dismiss her in favor of his device, which only he could read, apparently. Abruptly, he smiled at her. He was always so back and forth. "No texting, then," Googling? Skyping? Jade stared at him blankly. Then, sort of angrily. I can guess what texting is, but I don't have a wireless cell phone. My dad got me a car phone because he was afraid I would lose a cellular. Other than that, no. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Why are we on the other side of the river? I'm from Illinois. People passed by, but some seem oblivious to them, obedient to their devices and the traffic. Everyone is very, very busy. The stranger in white stretched wildly and scratched his head. Then shook his head, at her, at his watch. He walked all the way back up the stairway to his pillar, parked in front of the column. Jade stood for a moment, then followed behind him. She had little choice. She was afraid she'd be doing quite a bit of this. She caught up as the traveler thanked someone. A chubby man with a mustache had given Traveler a quarter, and said, "Nice coat." Jade. Traveler was twirling the coin between his fingers. Your anomaly, saving you, created an embolism in time. We can't go back to the exact spot you were, at that exact moment. Jade nodded, sighed. How close did you get? What do you think of how Purge looks here? She's trying to blend, Traveler asked hopefully. She looked at Purge, the stone pillar, in front of a mammoth display of gargantuan stone columns at least 5 times as large. She looks ridiculous. Jade launched in. The only reason it seems to work sitting there is because it looks like she's going to be used for an exhibit. She glanced around, noting something. Jade finished. And if you're standing on the street, it looks, when you come out of Purge, like you're walking out one of the doors. Traveler nodded, flipped the coin in the air, and then shot a blue streaming light at it from his watch. The coin stayed in midair, spinning. And spinning. She just... The Traveler in white shrugged. Does that, adapts. He pointed to the coin. She tries to, at least. The problem is that she isn't supposed to be here. I'm not going to pilot her, I admit that. Traveler really stared at Jade then, whether she was aware of it or not. She isn't supposed to exist. The coin kept spinning. It was starting to gather attention from the locals, but not as much as Jade would have thought. Not nearly as quickly either. My machine isn't as exact as I would like, Traveler spoke softly. All in time and space, this was as close as I could get. Things are very caustic around you, temporarily speaking. The coin was spinning. Traveler shook his head. How many people are paying attention to Purge? That particular pillar right now? He asked. Jade looked around. There are some gawkers, but by and large they're going on their merries. You are very distracting. They look for a second, then go away. And I think you're trying to distract me as well. Why are we here? We're not supposed to be here. Not me, not Purge, definitely. Traveler plucked the coin from the air and handed it over to her. Not you. What year is it, Jade? 1997. The people here are intentionally diverting themselves from us. He disappeared inside Purge. Her stomach hurt. She absently folded the coin in her hand, not looking at it closely. Traveler reappeared beside her, waving his watch around. It was emitting a wide blue beam, very bright. He began sweeping the steps side to side, the pulsing beam crackling with a warm static charge whenever it passed over a passerby. He looked like a madman, his entire suit and coat of white reflecting the eerie sapphire glow. Stop there! Jade protested. Then she shut up. No one could see them at all now. Nobody paid any attention to anything the Traveler did. He backtracked to Jade, stepped behind her, put his arms around her. She stepped away. Wait! He showed her his watch, fairly close to her face, not hugging her, showing her something. His other hand appeared opposite, and she followed his pointing finger to a blip on the screen. He pressed the blip. All the light disappeared. No cobalt, no crackling lightning. Jade could then see a shadow walking around. It was like a shadow at least, the shape of a human, but nebulous, black, not really a black hole, but Light seemed to wrap around it, as if it was devouring light. Then it sat down, right in front of her. "That's you." Traveler's hands dropped, and he stepped away from her. "The you that should be here if you hadn't been taken by the angel." "Like a void?" Jane leaned forward and studied the bizarre future echo of herself. "Very good. Yes, you are a paradox." "That cannot be there." Traveler sat down, rested his elbows on his knees, placed his face in his hands. "While you are here, and yet there you are, and yet you are right here. Very confusing? You're supposed to go see an El Monstero concert, see? Who the hell is El Monstero? And why can't anyone see us at all anymore?" People wandering around Traveler and Jade as she yelped questions. They passed through the strange silhouette of darkness, completely oblivious. "Purge made us invisible?" Jade asked. "Correct. Kappa Zili Ornic Viz Oryx Traveler instituted real-world diversion interface." Purge authoritative female voice echoed from some intercom deep within the stone column. Traveler stood bolt upright. "This is where you ended up, Jade. This is where you should be." Locals passed by unfazed. Jade grabbed her stomach. "You need to find a way to get me back here." "For now, this is as close as it gets." Jade pointed her finger at him. "Do better. I'm tired of your insufferance, operator." Traveler nodded and disappeared inside Purge. Jade headed back in to see the stranger in white walking to the terminal on the podium, his control panel, pressed forward a silver lever, and looked up at the dark marble slab. He reached inside and pulled out a mirror, a small rectangular mirror. "You need to consume. What do you require?" Traveler asked. He threw the mirror at a wall across the room. It stuck. Jade shook her head. "Eat? I hadn't thought about it." "Purge has." Traveler snapped his fingers and the mirror expanded to the size of a doorway. A heavy smell of toasted bread wafted into the massive control room. "We need to get your blood sugar levels. Follow me." He entered the mirror, which, when Jade studied it closely, actually became another room entirely. She entered to find a cafeteria. A massive cafeteria, all shiny and clean. It could easily fit a few hundred. There were gorgeous marble waterfalls, 2 of them on either side of the long room. The sound of running water permitted. Soothing. Tastefully arranged calf chairs and sofas welcomed visitors through the entire place. There were several crystal frames fitted on the walls everywhere. It was Art Deco, but it was all white and silver and chrome. Even the tiny calf lamps at every table blended in with the decor. It smelled of fries, sweet rolls, popcorn, coffee, fresh bread. She was starving. "Anything you want to watch to pass the time while you consume?" "Just think it. It'll appear." Traveler absently pointed to the general direction of the crystal screens everywhere. He stopped at the main bar, which ran about 30 feet. He sat on a stool and the entire bar became illuminated with a soft glow. "Eat!" he said exceptionally. Jade sat beside him. "Eat what?" Then she looked down to see a freshly toasted everything bagel with a jalapeno cream cheese spread, a plate of steaming hot fries, crisp and salty, Heinz ketchup, 2 warm peanut butter and chocolate chip cookies, a giant soft pretzel right out of the oven with extra sea salt and warm spicy cheese dip, a spinach, strawberry, and canned nut salad with sweet and sour vinaigrette, a small bowl of mint chocolate chip ice cream, a cherry and vanilla soy shake, a large glass of light sweetened raspberry iced tea, fresh raspberry, fresh lemon. The movie 7 came up on the screen in front of her. She was going to see that with Alex tomorrow. Or was it Tim? Well, tomorrow it seemed was going to change. She slid the odd coin around her fingers, trying to imitate Traveler's impressive moves as she ate. He sort of disappeared. For a time, simply sitting, eating, and recharging made her feel better. The movie was excellent, and this was probably the best meal she had ever eaten. Or at least, that's what Purge was trying to convince her. Jade knew part of this relaxed, comfortable, confident, and safe feeling she had while inside was something artificially projected. Subconsciously, hypnotically, didn't matter. The fries were killer. The slurp sound of the straw signaling the end of her shake was extremely satisfying. She thought of her shadow. Her time echo as she finished the meal filled up. Jade started flipping the coin between her fingers. She walked back to the main foyer, stopping at the threshold to look behind her at the huge, brand new, inviting cafeteria. But it was so damn empty. Her spot at the bar was a glaring irregularity. Its dirty dishes, wadded up napkins, and crumbs defied the cleanness and neatness and perfection of the rest of the eatery. Over the threshold, and Jade was standing beside the strange traveler in white, in front of the naval terminal. It seemed to shift. It was definitely six-sided, but it was also definitely a lectern, made to have a person on every side. Perhaps a podium for lectures, albeit a strangely designed one. She could see it was beautifully crafted from porcelain, lent it a strange antique feel as it was embedded on all six sides with a chrome and silver dials and levers of which Jade would never be able to screen the function. Bright lights as well blinked everywhere on the high-tech, antique podium. Lectern. Submarine-looking thing. To your left. Traveler held his hand up in the air. The room she came from, the entranceway to the cafeteria, shrunk to a tiny sliver of a reflection. Back to a small mirror. The tiny mirror was flung across the room and ended up in the traveler's hand, like he tossed it, but backwards. It looked like the old movies, where they cheaply reversed the film as a special effect. He slid it back into a large slab of dark granite, or marble, or whatever it was, which in turn slid down into the terminal. It sealed close with a thud, as if someone dropped a bag of concrete. Good moves, Traveler pointed at Jade's coin. You learn fast. Thank you for the food. Jade continued the impressive sliding of the quarter over and around her knuckles. This place is cool. You're good. I know, Traveler beamed. But I get that you're still only giving me half answers. Still trying to distract me. You didn't say where we ended up. You haven't said how we are going to get me back. As for getting you back, the Traveler in white pressed his watch to the silver control panel, a quick flash of blue light. I have taken readings of where you were supposed to be. I have your temporal signature, as it were, your negative self. I'm still getting a quantum lock signal from that graveyard. Related to you, again, temporal in nature. You're thinking it could be wraithful angels trying to tear their way through? Jade gasped as she remembered the rock creature. Background 1 second, in your face if you turned around. If you even blinked. Going to eat you. Traveler smiled, impressed. Correct. But I've got as close as I could. Put a toe in the water, any closer to the graveyard in 1997, at least for the time being, you could become a feast for statues that move when you aren't looking. I'm working on it. I know I'm missing something, yet it's a start. Traveler took Jade's coin, held it in front of her eyes, and set it in her hand. From 1997 until this temporal nexus point, you do not exist. This is where you'll next appear. In existence, at least where you are supposed to end up. Where are we? How close did we get? I gave you an answer, if you would simply see what is right in front of you. She took the coin and looked at it. Really looked. The profile was set strangely. The material was somewhat lighter. The quarter was from year 2014. Repeating pattern. Ring, ring, ring. The car faded in and out of the space in front of the mausoleum, as if trying to reach for something. Then it was gone. The waves of its existence were replaced by waves of its absence until it was nothing. Just an echo of a ring. And then silence in the dark. In the graveyard. Alex lit a smoke from distracting himself from the chills. He got chills from this every damn year. Every damn year it scared the shit out of him. It's doing this every year? Tim asked, stroking his beard. Ever since she disappeared, Alex confirmed. Exhaling smoke into the blurry cold dark night, a crow screamed somewhere very far away. Tim stopped rubbing his face and crouched down. He couldn't believe what he'd just seen. Her old pink car came out of nowhere, and the phone rang. It was a grinding metallic sound, though. It screamed. Then it was gone. The leaves whirled around in circles. It was dark. Tim shivered violently. His body seemed to reject what his eyes had perceived. Alex knew the feeling well. He took a deep drag of his cigarette and glanced down at Tim, who was almost cowering. Tim whispered, "It has been doing this every 17 years? Alex nodded grimly, flicking some ash. "On this one night, the night she left, every year. It has been doing this for 17 years. Darkness in the graveyard. The wind blew between the headstones.